Hello again, and this is another FOE Training Grounds. I am Skoggle, and we're doing more of the bottom lane series, particularly the early laning phase. Here we see that Corki gets that level 2 advantage real quick over kog'maw and is able to put some hurt on him. If you're able to do this either by killing the creeps faster than them or by picking up some of the jungle mobs before you get out to lane, it does help you get that level advantage and start winning trades a little early. It's a good way to go. You just have to be a little careful when you get pushed out like that because you're a little more vulnerable to ganks, getting a good ward out, or recognizing that a lot of junglers like to hit level 2 or 3 before they come at you. Just different things like that. It's a little safer in the bottom lane because the top lane's isolated, the middle lane's isolated. You're more likely to have a gank there, but it is not impossible for a gank to come bottom lane. But that being said, looking at the summoners really quick, we have Flash and Ignite on Corki, where kog'maw runs Flash Cleanse. And Cleanse is a great way on some of these hyper carries, kog'maw and Vayne and such, to make sure you get to the late game. It's harder to catch you out. There they lost a trade pretty hard. They went all in on Soraka and just weren't able to get it done. Soraka dodged a tornado and it really set her up to be safe. So Corki's just going to get that Doran's Blade advantage and get out to lane. He gets out to lane, but now kog'maw's fairly caught up in levels. So unfortunately, if that tornado had landed, they might have gotten the kill, so it wasn't a bad decision, it just didn't quite work out for him. And here they catch it before it gets their tower. He lost one to the tower, but that's not bad. The supports are Janna and Soraka, and they both have Flash Ignite, and they both burn Flash Ignite in that last attempt. And here they're going for it again. Unfortunately, he gets slowed, and kog'maw gets away. Speaking of times to trade, not to trade, Janna throws that shield out, and it's fairly obvious, poking that shield. One, it does get rid of their AD bonus, so that's kind of nice, but poking the shield means they'll probably win the trade, because you're going to have to do a lot of damage to get through the shield. There, Janna chases off to Anivia, and Corki just farms. They had the advantage. It had been an even team fight. Corki would have been well advised to go, but they really were just chasing down and finishing off Anivia, so it was fairly safe for Corki to stay and just keep farming. But back to what my point was, Soraka. Soraka has a heal, but that heal gives an armor buff. You see that yellow boost around kog'maw, that means he has a significant armor buff right now. Hitting him, poking him with your phosphorus bomb, you almost want to wait for that yellow buff off of Soraka to be gone before you really start trading. Something to note that this Corki does, your job as an AD carry is to farm. You push out to the tower, it denies them some farm. You want to win and farm. You want to be stronger than your lane mate. For the late game fights, but you have to dodge their skills. It's not simply enough to farm and to lay down your skills on them. If you dodge their skills, they're wasting mana, they're wasting effort, they're wasting their time that they could be farming. So if you're dodging their skills, they're really getting nothing accomplished. Here he chases for no good reason, and it's pushed to his tower. I kind of think that's a kind of a bad choice. And the main reason I think that is when you're pushed, if you lost that trade and had to buy back, he'd be able to easily get those creep waves onto your tower. So when you're close to your tower, if you don't have a jungle gank or a good reason to think you're going to win the trades, kind of don't want to trade there. You want to just farm. And that's what kog'maw did to get out of him being pushed. He did a great job of just farming. He didn't keep trying to trade. He would let them get too aggressive. See, now they're forced back, and kog'maw is going to deny him some creeps to this tower. It won't be too much, but it's still something to be aware of when you're playing as lane control. Just when you're close to your tower, you don't want to. kog'maw did not take advantage of that, actually, and they're able to freeze it before it gets there. If you do see them go back because you force them and you're near their tower, just go ahead and push it all the way in. You want the tower to be killing their CS. So here, that ward over by Wraiths, kind of right above the mid lane, will give a lot of information if you watch it as this game progresses. You'll be able to see every time that Lee Sin wants to go through and do do his race, you'll see him. So I do like wards that are in positions in their jungle that you can now watch their activity, what they're up to, and so forth. So Nautilus is trying to get in the brush, so Corki needs to push this lane fairly hard and needs to try to allow Nautilus to get out there. So he needs to use some skills and push this through. When I'm looking at Corki, just by the way, it's 4 phosphorus bomb, 1 and everything else. That is pretty much how you want to build Corki early on. Your Gatling gun's tempting, but it's just harder to farm with it. It's not consistent. So because they push, Nautilus is able to get out in this brush. And this is how you gank. When they gank through the lane, this is what it means. Is now the lane's going to push back, and you're hoping you can catch him. He just barely misses the anchor, knowing that he's Nautilus. Had he landed that, he's got so much other crowd control that kog'maw could have been in a world of hurt. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but you do want to make sure your jungler doesn't waste too much time there, and make sure you can get up to that second brush. Or if you're trying to get them to push, that you even miss a CS or two, whatever it takes to not push the lane so that they get overextended, so you can get that gank off. So again, Corki pushes to the tower, and he's going to go back and buy instead of stay extended, especially with no wards out. Very good decision. Lee Sin's in the mid. Just kind of always keep your eye. Where's their jungler? Where's their jungler? Right now, you don't see their top, and you don't see their jungler. There's top again, so you're safe there. It's just jungler we're not aware of. I hear that people should be calling MIAs, and I do agree with that, but you can't change what they do. What you can do is go ahead and decide how you will play. Where is everyone on the map? Where is Vladimir? Where is Anevia? She just went out of Morgana's sight. Morgana doesn't know where she is. Just kind of keep your eye on that. Sorry, I talked right through this trade. I will rewind it. We'll see it again. In this exchange, what they do different is they go right on the kog'maw and make sure that he can't stay in this fight without getting himself in trouble. And so as Soraka goes to protect, they just turn focus, and by they I mean Corki and Urf. They turn focus and go right for Soraka. And this is the range of Corki's ultimate, and just the talent if you can land those skill shots. You know that she's probably hugging that wall. You're hoping you don't hit that minion wave. Excellent play by Corki. That range is just sick. It's just one of the reasons Corki's so awesome, is that ultimate is so strong. And now with kog'maw by himself, he's not very scary. If they could have caught him in a tornado, they could have gone for it. Anyway about it, they can just go push the tower and hopefully deny him more CS. Right now he's up by 12 CS and has a kill because of that Soraka kill, so he's winning this lane right now. kog'maw goes and picks up that BF sword, so that's going to make him really hurt. And he backed while Soraka was dead, and Corki knows this, and Corki goes, pushes to the tower, because Nautilus is invading in their jungle, goes right for him. Now that's a dangerous play. The reason I liked it was Nautilus was right in position, and when Nautilus goes into the jungle, you can get away with that, because if their jungler comes, it's 3v2. Now mid's missing, and your Morgana's across the map, so just realize what's happening and be ready to get out of there after this happens. So again, just great plays by Nautilus. He's such large amounts of crowd control, and he's so tanky. So Anevia gets that wall down and he flashes through it, which was the appropriate decision, because if Anevia lands the stun, whoever she lands it on is pretty much screwed, and the chase is on. Anevia is scary. She does a lot of damage even while she's built tanky. She has the slow, she has the wall, and she lands the stun, and that hurts right there, her follow-up damage. And she auto-attacks, but she didn't want to tower dive with Nautilus right there, so Corki, because he got stunned under his tower, is able to get out of this. So at this point, I'd say Corki didn't dominate his lane, but he won his lane. He's up 18 CS. He has a kill and an assist where kog'maw has none. So he just has better items right now. He has, well, not necessarily better items, but he has more gold. as kog'maw technically right now has the item advantage, but I'll bet you Corki's sitting real close to upgrading first. The next big buy will be to Corki. And that was the Corki versus Kog matchup. I do like the Corki Janna. I think that extra damage that Janna gives him with the shield is huge. And Kog Soraka's okay. I would rather have Janna, Alistar, someone who can really protect, or Nunu for just that hyper late game carry. And here's something to note: when they go for your tower and they're going to get it, you have two choices. You defend the tower, or you back off really hard. Because if you can see, they're not doing either. They're just farming under the tower. But what that does is now it's like being pushed to their tower. If you're scared enough to be behind the tower, but if that tower is going to die, you've got to run before it's going to go down. As you can see there, Soraka was way too close to that tower, not even close to escaping. I mean, just forever to run, and it's an easy kill for Corki simply because he killed the tower. And then Lee Sin comes in, but you have Janna. The patience, if you land that Q with Lee Sin, she knocks you back, and then you Q again, you will get through. And again, this team does an excellent job of getting away from chases and doing enough damage to scare them off, and having the jump off Corki and Janna's protection abilities. Anyways, thank you for watching. That was another of our bottom lane series. Have a good day. Alright, time for the review of this game and to see what we learned. Let's start with number 1, leveling up first. There's many ways to do this. You can either, like I discussed earlier, if you've probably seen, you can do the jungle creeps, get yourself some experience. You can steal their wraith camp. You can take the golems on the way if you're blue side. There's just several options you got. So just remember, the other way that you level up first is by killing creeps faster. It's on a solo lane. I believe it's one mob out of the second wave will get you that level first. So if you clear your wave, clear one, and they're like 2 minions behind you, have that little bit of time that you're stronger, that you can trade. The disadvantage of leveling up and pushing your aggression is getting ganked. Now on bottom lane you have wards, so you can kind of deter a jungler early. Not a lot of junglers can gank through proper warding at level 2. So you have, or even 3, so you have such an advantage because you have a support with you. So as an AD carry, if you want to take advantage of some jungle creeps or push the lane a little bit to get the level advantage and then go ahead and attack him, that does work. It's a valid strategy. You might pay for it occasionally, but you'll probably come ahead more often than you'll lose. 2, trading without knowing. And what I mean by this is trading without knowing who's going to win. So if you want to initiate a trade and you're not sure exactly how this is going to go down because you haven't been trading with them very much, you need to kind of measure your first trade. Don't come in and give it everything you got like you're going for a kill. Had they gone in and just tried to take half Soraka's life and back out, they would have gotten out of there taking relatively no damage. But instead they're going to go for the kill. And while they almost got it, they didn't. And then they had to base. And they were way low. They lost the trade pretty hard, and it was actually Corki who was in danger of getting killed. And so trading without knowing how it's going to go, you should always do a smaller trade, see how it's going. And the other thing that does is if you're winning the smaller trades, when you go all in, they're going to be fairly low and there's not going to be much they can do but run. So always try to get to know what you have. You can do that. I do it in my other videos. I'll get back to doing it. It's hard on some of these videos that are kind of buggy sometimes that I missed it. But if you stop and you click on them and you see what runes and masters are running, you might be able to decide whether you can win that trade or not. Things can still go wrong. You could miss a skill shot. But that's the type of stuff you need to know before you just commit to these trades. Also, by attacking the support and not the AD carry, if you did land the kill, the carry can turn around and kill you back if you were low for it. Whereas if you get the carry and not the support, most supports can't turn around and punish you unless you were really low. Number 3, dodging skill shots. I think this is the difference between a great laner a great farming laner, because when you're an AD carry, your job is to farm. And when you're a support, your job is to stay healthy and keep up so that you can help him farm and get ahead. So if you're dodging their skill shots and making them waste mana, you should be able to win the battle of farming. So if you're farming and dodging skill shots, kind of playing passive, even if you're playing aggressive, you dodge that skill shot and there goes a bunch of his mana. It didn't get used to farm and it didn't get used to get a kill on you, so it is a good thing for you. So if you get really good at watching what they're going to do to you and dodging it, like you're watching the Graves. Okay, Graves throws a smoke screen and he's probably coming at you. Move to the side. Don't get hit by that buckshot, at least not in the face. If it's Corki, you want to dodge his phosphorus bombs. You want to not get hit by too much of that Gatling gun. In the case of kog'maw, it's his ultimate. You see that little thing going to land on you? Don't stand there and keep farming. Dodge that. It's better to dodge those skill shots in the long run than it is to get that last minion that you are about to hit. So that minion is not worth it. And this will make even a bigger difference when you're playing against AP casters, but even against the AD ones, they're getting their poke off on you over and over again. Or for instance, you're going against Urgot. If you're going to let them land corrosive charge, you're going to lose the lane. If it's free damage wins lanes, so dodge skill shots. Remember, as your first key might be to learn to farm. Your second, to get good at AD carry, is to be able to trade, and your third most important skill on AD carry is dodging those skill shots for the laning phase, not necessarily for the game phase, the end of the game phase, but for laning phase, those are the three things that if you can learn, if they can be taught to you, if you can watch videos, whatever it takes, learn those three things and you'll start doing a lot better. 4, trading when lane is pushing, and it's when it's pushing against you, not for you. You want to trade when the lane's pushing for you. If they dare come at you, they'll take all that creep damage, and it's more creeps. If they have more creeps and they're pushing against you, it's not a good time to trade for a couple reasons. One, if you lose the trade, the lane's pushing, it's gonna get to your tower, and even if you don't get killed and you are able to run back, you could still have a huge problem where you have to base and the lane's so pushed you lose 2 or 3 creep waves to that tower, and now they're significantly ahead of you. You've lost, that's a decent amount of experience, could be a lot of gold potential that you should have had, and it just can really decide games if the AD carry loses trades when the lane's pushing against them. 5, pushing for lane ganks. And when you're pushing for lane ganks, you need to understand exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to not waste your time and get a kill. You're trying to not waste your jungler's time. If you waste, sometimes on the bottom, the only way they can successfully gank is to lane gank by coming through the tower around the wards and then getting into that brush before they're seen by a minion. So your job as the AD carry is to get the lane pushing a little bit forward. It's kind of counterintuitive when you're trying to gank, but he has to be able to get in that brush unseen. And then if he's trying to get up to the second brush because they're playing behind the creep wave, you need to get it so that none of those creeps will see him dodge between the 2 brushes. So you just need to have him wait a second and push up. And if your jungler's telling you to push so he can go, don't push clear to the tower. You're just trying to push so he can get into the brush. And on the contrary, if the lane is pushing against you and he's in the brush, or it's going to be equal, then let it push back a little bit so that they move a little forward, get out of position. You're trying to bait them into that brush gank. 6, your map awareness. This is different than map awareness. It's different than your team telling you or being responsive to pings. This is what you can do, because everyone says, yeah, you didn't call MIA, your fault. And they technically could be correct. We could make arguments both ways. It's kind of opinion and it doesn't matter. But what does matter is that you died because they didn't call MIA. Now, what can be done about this? 1, you can yell at them. It's not going to actually help. They're not going to get better at calling MIAs. They could get annoyed or just get in a troll mood and not call MIAs at all at that point. Or you could learn to watch all the other lanes. Every little bit, just check. Is there any sign of the jungler? Is there any sign of the mid? Where is he? Where's the top? Especially when they have the aggressive ones like Scion with mobility boots. Any mid with mobility boots, you've got to keep your eyes on. Don't wait for those MIAs. They're trying to gank. That is their goal. The junglers, and then you have top with teleport you've got to pay attention to. You've got to pay attention to Twisted Fate or Pantheon. There's just no matter what, if you're always checking, hey, like if the top's gone for 10-15 seconds, you could kind of say something to your top, be like, they might be making a play on dragon, maybe you should run down here. I don't know if they'll listen, but that's just what I mean by your map awareness. It's what you can control, not what you can try to make your team do, which they probably won't do. 7, support bait. Support bait is when you can go all in on the AD carry, or at least start poking at them, and maybe save some of your burst and some of your attack damage for the support when they come to protect their carry. Because what happens when you go heavy on an AD carry is the support, that's their job. That's like their wake up cue. Stop being asleep and just sitting there with your GP10 items. It's time to protect. And when they do that, a lot of times they'll commit all their resources to protecting the carry. What this does is it opens them up in a stage of vulnerability. You can now turn and kill them. So if you're not pulling off kills on their AD, if you're not pulling off kills on their AD carry, and the main reason for that is they have good positioning or good escape skills, or they're getting protected well by the support, you could possibly then bait out the support to protect the AD carry and leave themselves in a stage of vulnerability. And since they're not farming, they're not going to be super tanks. Even when they're sort of tanky, you still can pull this off. So that is what a support bait is. It's a good way to get a kill in your lane if you're not able to get it on the AD carry very easily. 8, aggression and jungle invade. I had to kind of summarize what I meant in the description, but through the gameplay you kind of see what happened. Nautilus invades the jungle, and so Corki goes hyper aggressive and goes past the tower to attack. Now, if Nautilus wasn't in the jungle, that would have been a very, very bad play, maybe even considered a feeding possibility if she lost that trade by Corki. Because Corki runs up to kog'maw and just ambushes him between the towers. Kog'maw wasn't quite ready for it, but if the jungler Lee Sin is there, if the mid's there, if the trade starts going badly, you can't escape now. But Nautilus was in position to make the play. So instead of fighting at the tower by being aggressive, he was able to make them fight at the lane, and they did most of the damage before they got to a tower. Kog'maw could not really run up to that next tower, so you kind of put him in a bad position. It was a very smart play, and you can get really aggressive if your mid's camping that tri-brush behind your turret, or because you're blue side and they go in that tri-brush behind the turret so it can go through, or your jungler is there. You can start playing very aggressive instead of sort of, I can't be too stupid, but I want to be aggressive. I mean, you can go into ultra aggressive modes, just don't be dumb about it, as if your team's invading the jungle. The other thing you could do is try to, since kog'maw wasn't in lane, is also go to the jungle, see if you could steal a buff so you can take an objective, find their jungler, make a play. But that is when you have teammates also doing the same thing. Don't go try to do that by yourself. That's what I mean by aggression and jungle invade, is more that someone else on your team was in the jungle. 9, defend or run. This is one of my favorite things to laugh at when people die. I don't know why it kills me, but it's comedy to me. When you see a tower and it's being attacked and it's getting low, you have two choices if it's your tower. You either defend the tower right then and there and go all in on them, because they start returning damage, the tower doesn't get burst down as fast, and they're going to start taking tower shots. Or you have to give the tower up and back off. You cannot stand there, wait for it to blow up, and then try to retreat, and then wonder how you didn't get away. That's just the ultimate comedy of bad judgment to me in this game that I see. I mean, there's other stuff like face checking brushes and other things that are fairly hilarious, or the guy who's losing really hard and still tries to fully engage you just because he sees a champion, tries to fight the champion. That stuff's all there, but that's kind of where lower elo happens. At higher elo even, you see people who don't back off from a tower that's dying because they see the tower and this automatic, is it subliminal or whatever, but this measure of safety is there. But if that tower is about to be destroyed, you've got to back off or defend it. You do have the option to stand there, let the tower blow up, and then get killed. But if you couldn't fight them, if you could have killed them while the tower was up, why weren't you doing that? 1. And 2, if you couldn't because they were so strong and that's why they're at your tower, you can't fight them when that tower goes down, so you're way out of position. That's like standing under their tower, the distance you have to the next tower, after it goes down. And if you got caught clearly all the way across your lane and got chased back and killed, you'd say, oh, I overextended. But you are overextended if you let that tower go down on you. Anyhow, I hope you learned something from this video. Have a great day. I hope to see you again.